Brad Williams, Frugal Finance, interest swaps and forward rate agreements. Going over this repeatedly, just so you feel more comfortable working through the understanding of interest swaps and forward rate agreements. With this background, we can now see how a plain vanilla interest rate swap can be analyzed as a portfolio of forward rate agreements. Consider the following FRA quotations: 0 by 6, 5, 6 by 12, 5, 12 by 18, 5, 18 by 24, 5. These quotations offer a fixed rate of interest for 6 months, SOFR 6, 12, and 18 months from now, and these rates are consistent with a flat yield curve. Faced with these rates, a firm enters all three forward rates to receive fixed and pay 6-month SOFR. A sequence of evenly spaced instruments with the same notional principal is called a strip. By entering these three FRA agreements as a notional principal of $20 million, the firm has entered a strip of forward rate agreements and is obligated to receive a fixed rate of 5% and pay 6-month SOFR on a notional principal of $20 million each 6 months over the next 2 years. The determination dates will be at months 6, 12, and 18, and the corresponding payment date will be at months 12, 18, and 24. The sequence of these three forward rate agreements is equivalent to a received fixed interest rate swap at 5% with semi-annual payments on a notional principal of $20 million and a tenure of 2 years. From the point of view of the received fixed party, the periodic cash flows would be 0.05 times 1/2 year times 20 million minus SOFR times half year times 20 million. The difference between the two, you don't know what SOFR is, so that's the risk. Therefore, when the yield curve is flat, a plain vanilla interest rate swap is equivalent to a sequence of FRAs. We now consider the more realistic case of a yield curve with a shape. Assume that the current 6-month spot rate is 4.95% and consider now the following FRA quotations that imply a rising yield curve. 0 by 6, 4.95, 6 by 12, 5%, 12 by 18, 5.10, 18 by 24, 5.2. If we go back to the third session, here are the same numbers as used in that pricing. The spot and forward rate yields converge, range from 4.95 to 5.2%. A plain vanilla interest rate swap call for a single fixed rate for the entire tenure of the swap. With this varying FRA rate, it is not clear how the equivalence between the strip of FRAs and the plain vanilla swap can be maintained. Intuitively, the fixed rate on the swap must be greater than 4.9% but less than 5.2%. However, fixed swap rate is unlikely to match any of the four rates. Instead, the fixed rate on the swap must be a function of the spot rate and the three rates on the FRA, such that the fixed rate on the swap implies payments with the same present value as the sequence of FRAs. If this pricing rule were not maintained, arbitrage would be possible. The arbitrage would result because the cash flows on an interest rate swap can be replicated by a sequence of forward rate agreements. This no arbitrage principle enforces an equality between present value of the fixed payments and the present value of the floating payments viewed from the initiation of the swap. It also provides a way to find the no arbitrage fixed rate for the swap given the FRA quotation. Later, we show exactly how to find the fixed rate for the swap. For now, let us simply assume that the no arbitrage fixed rate for this swap is 5.075%. It's Sneak back to number 3 and you'll see that number. We select this rate as it is the midpoint between the high and low rates. Notice that does not match any of the 4 FR rate actually available. This will generally be the case in any term structure environment when the yield curve has shape. Thus, for a swap in this situation with a fixed rate of 5.075%, the swap may be replicated by a strip of off-market FRAs similar to this. So now we just went through this, and fixed rate too high, too high, too low, too low. This number 5.063. In this rising environment of our example, the fixed rate on the swap is first too high for periods 1 and 2, and then too low for periods 3 and 4. In general, we would expect the fixed rate on the swap to be about the average of the FRA rates covering the tenure of the swap. First 2 payments on this swap have a present value that is beneficial to the received fixed counterparty, while the last 2 payments benefit the pay fixed party, assuming that the FRA rates materialize as the actual rates to cover the various periods. In summary, we may interpret an interest rate swap as a strip of forward rate agreements. In the rare event of a flat yield curve, all FRA rates will be the same, and the fixed rate for the swap will be the same as the common FRA note. In the more usual case, when the yield curve has a shape, the fixed rate on the swap will not equal any of the FRA rates. Instead, it will be the unique fixed rate that makes the present value of all of the individual payments sum to 0. This is the one fair fixed rate for the swap that does not disadvantage either party. The strip of FRAs will then be a strip of off-market forward rate agreements, and it is this strip of off-market FRAs that is equivalent to a plain vanilla interest rate swap. Reread it if you need it. Brad Williams, Frugal Finance. Thanks for watching.